the board here. Actually, I think all board members are here.
Hey, everybody.
So
Yeah,
I will go ahead and call the December 22nd meeting for the village trustees to order. And on that note, do we have any agenda additions or changes tonight?
I'm not aware of any.
Great. Trustees, any additions or changes?
Nope.
All right, no need to approve the agenda since we didn't make any changes to it. And next we will move into public to be heard. So we are about to enter into the portion of the meeting, which is a time where if there are members from the public who wish to address the board about something that is not on the agenda, then now is the time to do so. Frank and Judy, I know you would like to speak to us, so I'll have you go first. And after Frank, Judy, when you have finished, we'll open it up for other individuals. So Frank and Judy, if you'd like to go ahead and address the boards, now is a great time to do so.
Okay, this is Judy. I'm a very bad public speaker, so you're going to have to bear with me. I just don't like it. So, well, we did talk to the planning about this, and they said this was more for you. We've had a lot of construction around. We live at 4 Park Terrace, and we've had the senior building right in our backyard, and then right after we had, which is going on right now, right beside us, the construction building that Brett's doing. And we've had a lot of heartache and a lot of duress from this, and we don't want this to happen again. And I mean, nothing has been done to help us, and we didn't know where to turn. Nobody's helping us with it. But the stress and the anxiety, we've been really sick through the year. We've been housebound and away from our family since this pandemic started. And we both have underlying diseases, and we have not been doing very well. And having this go on next door and behind us has been living hell. It's been worse than I can even describe to you.
We had assurances at the very beginning meetings that Park Terrace would be left open and travelable by vehicles. And we've had instant after instance where the road's been closed because of cars, trucks parked on no parking zones, parking right under the no parking sign. Judy's been trying to get her car out at different times to go to appointments, and our driveway's been blocked. The guys that were working on the construction site just kind of harassed her about it.
Yeah, they taunt me. There was one day that I had an early morning hospital visit, and I came home. It was right in the midst. It was around 8 o'clock when the kids were getting ready to go to school, and there was a ton of traffic on 2A. And I was trying to get up my street just to go home because we aren't supposed to be out near anybody. I had my mask on, and I wanted to just get home and get in the house and all that. And I couldn't get up my street. My tail end of my car was right in the middle of 2A, and there was a huge truck in the street coming down the street. And when I asked them to please back up and let me get home, they taunted me. They laughed at me. They told me this wasn't their truck. They were calling me names. It was absolutely horrible. They said, "Just back up, lady. Get out of here. Back up." Now, if you guys know anything about what 2A looks like when the kids are going to school, do you know how scary that was for me, the idea of backing up to go and turn around or to go and get out of there and go down the wrong way of my street? This is a one-way street. I didn't know what to do. I was pretty much in tears, so I called the cops, and they said they would send a car over, which they never did while I was there, and I was like pretty much hysterical. Somebody honked me and let me back into traffic. I didn't know if I was going to hit somebody else in one of the other 2 lanes. I had no idea. I got out of there. I'm here to tell my tale, but it was really horrible, and my medical condition didn't help. My blood pressure went up to stroke area, and I was a mess. And I had to go up towards the shopping center and wait. I couldn't come through McGillicuddy's to go home because that truck was blocking everything. I had to sit there in the parking lot and wait for them to get done what they were doing, which was quite a bit later, before I got home. And that's just not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay to have people taunt me and tell me, "Oh, lady, just get out of here. I mean, lady, this isn't our truck, lady." And I mean, really nasty, mean people that were on this job, and they know who I am. They know I live here, and I've been really nice to everybody until this happened. Until I had, and then I didn't do anything except say, "Please move your truck." And they said, "It's not ours. It's not ours." That's what they always say to me. "That's not our truck. That doesn't belong to us." And they laugh at me, and they all start laughing. And this happened the other day. Again, I had to go to the hospital, and I was in my driveway, and I was trying to back up so I wouldn't be late. And they were right in front of my driveway, blocking me. And I got out of the vehicle with my mask on, and I said, "Could you guys please move? I have an appointment. I have to get out of here." This was very early in the morning. This was like 7:15. And they laughed at me again, and they told me they weren't moving. And this wasn't their truck. The same thing, the same ordeal. We went through the same thing. And this went on until finally, probably if I had waited even 2 more minutes, it would have been really late for my appointment. I started to back up a little bit, and one of the guys on the construction site saw that, and he came over to them and he said, "Hey, fellas, you got to move your vehicle." That's when they moved. The cops didn't come. I did call them. They didn't come while I was there. I don't know if they, I don't have any idea if they showed up after. I have written letters to Ron Hogue. I have written letters to everybody just saying, what do we do? Everybody that I ask for help sends me to somebody else, and nobody's helping me. We have lived here for over 40 years, almost 50 years, 45 years, somewhere in there. And we have paid taxes. We have been good citizens. We have not broken any laws. We've been really good village residents. And we don't deserve to be treated like this. And it's really affecting our health to have to deal with this. I mean, it's bad enough that they start early, and we have to call the police at 6:30 and 6:15 in the morning and say they're supposed to start at 7, and the machines are crashing and booming and banging at 6 o'clock. Do something, and nothing is done. 7 o'clock comes, and then I can't do a darn thing because the cops haven't done anything. They told me they gave warnings. Well, you know what, guys? If I broke the law and I got warnings, do you think I'd get 100 warnings? Do you think you guys would handcuff me and put me in jail? What do you think would happen to me? But they're getting away with it, and they're finding excuses, saying we warned them, we told them not to do it again. But you know what? It's happening over and over, and we are living in virtual hell. This home of ours that we've been in for almost 50 years, our peace, our sanity, is not that anymore, and it's beyond horrible, and I can't even tell you. This is just not fair. It's not fair. We should not have to be going through this, whether we're sick or not sick. Yes, we happen to be sick, but we shouldn't have to be going through this whether we're sick or not. This is not fair. Is somebody going to pay our taxes for us or give us some kind of reduction for what we're going through? I haven't heard that.
So Frank, Judy,
You guys got to realize that this has been going on in some shape, manner, or form since the day the wrecking ball hit the old Chittenden Bank building.
Yes.
It's been one construction project after another with very similar kinds of incidences occurring. And I mean, I know we sound like we're whining and complaining, but I mean, this has been going on for almost 10 years of solid construction during that time frame. I mean, start checking some dates. I'm pretty sure that construction started around 2012 or 2011. We just, in frustration, we don't know where to turn to. I mean, we thought we had a relationship going on with the police department, and I know they're busy, but, we're important too. And going from there, we went to the planning group, the planning commission, and we got, we have to deal with another issue that we talked about with them, but this issue of noise and so on, this has got to be dealt with by the police department. Well,
and every time I call the police department, the dispatcher, the male dispatcher that's on during the day, as soon as he hears who it is, he pretty much hangs up on me. He doesn't want to talk to me. He doesn't literally hang up on me. I'm just saying, he just says, "I'm busy. I can't talk to you now. Is this an emergency?" What am I supposed to say? To me, it's important. No, it's not a major emergency where somebody is dying, but when the street is blocked and when we are going through the hell that we're going through, an ambulance couldn't get to our house. A fire truck couldn't get to our house. And I don't care about breaking the rules and going down the street and doing whatever. I'm just saying they couldn't get to our house if we needed help, and we could very well need help. And this is just not fair. It's just not fair what we've been going through. So who do we turn to if the police aren't going to help us? If none of you guys are helping us? We went to the village offices. No one's helping us there. Everybody's passing the buck to someone else, and nobody is helping us. What do we do as tax-paying, really good citizens?
So absolutely nobody deserves to
Week and a
be
half
treated
ago.
with disrespect.
Hang on one second.
A week and a half ago, I think it was the 12th of December, construction started at 10 minutes after 6. We called the police. An officer came over. Well, the construction company had a document that they got from Public Works that allows them to cut the street open. Had nothing in it that said anything about earlier, working earlier, starting earlier, instead of starting at 7 or normal time, started at 10 minutes after 6.
And they didn't tell us.
They did not tell a single neighbor. We asked every one of our neighbors who were right around this area, the Park, School Street, Park Terrace area. Not a single call to say, hey, they're going to start early. There's going to be a noise going on. I mean, we could have gone to our son's house across the river here and slept.
Except we couldn't do
slept
that
there,
because
but-
we can't do that right now. But
And I mean, nobody is just courteous enough to say, hey, we need to contact the neighbors and let this happen. Instead, what we got from the construction guys was a lot of the usual kinds of comments.
they have papers. There's nothing we can do about it. That's what the dispatcher said. Lady, they have papers.
So that's our whine.
So who do we turn to? Just tell us what to do. We don't know what to do.
So with the disrespect that it sounds like you have been receiving, you're doing the right thing in contacting the police. If there is something going on in the community and they can't get there right away, unfortunately, there's nothing our board is going to do. And I think I can speak for the board when I say that we're not going to tell them to prioritize one person's need over another, that is the police officer and the police dispatcher's discretion. That's what they have. And we're not going to step in the middle of that.
We're not asking for that.
Who's speaking?
So that's
Who's
what
speaking?
Who is this speaking, please?
This is Andrew Brown.
Andrew, we haven't been asking for that. If there's a major emergency, we want that taken care of. That's not what we're saying at all.
Right. It sounded like what I thought I heard you say is that you call the dispatcher, they tell you that they can't send somebody. All I'm saying is you're doing the right thing with that. If you're feeling that the people who are doing the construction work are treating you with disrespect, they're blocking the road, not allowing you to get to the road, you're doing what you should be doing. So there really isn't something different that we can do for that.
Then what do we go to?
Unfortunately, you're doing the best thing that anybody can do. There isn't anything else that honestly I can think of to tell you that would be able to help resolve that.
So
I do see.
I don't know. Either.
I see other hands up from some other trustees. I see George has his up, or Evan. Is there some other idea that you guys have that I'm not able to think of?
Yeah, Andrew, and maybe Frank and Judy, we've already done this, but a couple of minor things. I don't know if they would help or not. I'm not trying to say anyone has a cure for all this. But I'm wondering if we have some mobile no parking signs or traffic cones that we could put near the driveway to your house that makes it very clear and give you a good.
They've been there for a long time, and nobody gives.
Oh, they have. Okay. And I'm sorry, I just don't know. And then the other question I had, and I don't know that we can guarantee this, but I'm wondering, would it help you if we made it very clear that as long as construction's going on, you have a right. We talked to the police that you have a right to go down Park Terrace the wrong way. Would that make it any easier for you?
No, it's when it's if you can't get out of your driveway, you can't go anywhere if they're blocked in front of your driveway. And coming up the street to come home, if there's a big truck parked there, you can't get by them. So that means nothing. No.
Okay. All right. I don't know. Evan?
Well,
What's going on with the traffic is pretty much what all of the neighbors around in this neighborhood had said was going to be happening, like this trying to back out onto Route 2A off Park Terrace because you're blocked. I mean, we've seen this before. Before the construction started, those of us who have lived here for many years, we've seen it. We knew it was going to happen. We told the planning board, this is what's going to happen. They built it anyway.
You know how scared I was when they were yelling at me to just back up, lady, into that traffic, how awful that was, how dangerous and stupid that was?
So Evan, I see that your hand is up on Teams. Go ahead.
So I do feel for Frank and Judy. I understand this is not the condition you want to live in. I can understand your frustration with rude people. Let me address a couple things. I have spoken to Robin Pierce, the community development director, and directed him to talk to the owner of that building and tell him that what they're doing on the street has to be monitored. I've also spoken to Chief Hogue about this, and he has been out there many times, as has Rob Kissinger has been out there many times. Yes, several of them have been given warnings, and we are trying to do our best to get there. We go there in the mornings. We go there in the afternoons. I have even driven by several times myself to see what the condition is. This problem needs to get solved mainly by the building getting built. I will, again, have a talk with Robin and Chief Hogue about speaking with the developer and the contractors and giving out tickets. They do have a...
Wait, can I interrupt for a minute? How many warnings is somebody supposed to get? Why haven't they given out a ticket when they're doing something illegal?
A fine of a substantial amount.
So that they won't do it again. I mean, how many warnings would I get as a resident? I get one warning, maybe, but I get ticketed.
Okay.
They're not getting anything except them calling me saying, well, we told them, we talked to them, and they said they wouldn't do it again, and they'd be more respectful, and that's such bull.
So what are you asking for, ma'am?
We need to know who to call, what to do when this happens. When I'm blocked in my own driveway and I can't get out, or I can't get up the street to go to my home,
so
what do I do? Who do I call?
What I'm prepared to do is tomorrow morning, I will call the chief of police and I will have a conversation with him about his dispatcher. You are to call the police, and the dispatcher is to dispatch a police officer to that scene. I will also talk with the chief about no more warnings. If it's a violation, ticket them. I don't think that's going to solve all of your issues, but it'll be a beginning. I will also instruct the owner that his contractors are not to be rude and they are not to block driveways. It is a very difficult site. There's no doubt about it. But if they are going too far and they are parking illegally and they are not unloading their vehicles, then that is a parking violation. They're not allowed to park their vehicles there without unloading.
Yep.
Trustee Chawla, I see your hand is up.
How big a fine is it going to be?
I'm not aware of what the fine is.
Yes. Dollars speak with developers, and big fines have a way of getting things done. I was in the construction world for 15 years. I saw it.
Raj, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
I just wanted to jump in and just apologize to Mr. and Mrs. Nave for having the hard time they're having.
Who is this speaking, please?
This is Raj Chawla, one of the trustees. I just wanted to apologize for your experience and tell you that we heard you, I heard you, and that I'm rather appalled that that's what's been happening. I don't have answers, as you've heard, I don't have answers as to what we can do immediately, but I will make sure that the conversation isn't over. And I just wanted to say that I'm sorry that had to happen, and appreciate you letting us know.
you, Raj. I appreciate that.
Thank you. I think we've talked ourselves out of this. I think. Anything else that you wanted to say?
No, I don't think we have anything more to say except that this is what's been going on, and it's just been living hell. I don't know how else to put it. It's been living hell. And we just need somebody. I mean, I still don't really have an answer. I mean, I know you're going to do all this talking, and thank you for that, but I still don't know what do I do when I'm trying to go to my doctor's appointment and I can't get out of my car to go and talk to them face to face, and I'm trying to get out of my driveway and they're blocking. What do I do? Who do I call?
I would call the police and say that someone from the construction crew is blocking your driveway and that you have a doctor's appointment. And I will absolutely tomorrow morning call the chief of police and let him know what his dispatcher is doing.
Yeah, his dispatcher, he does
knows.
know. We've told Ron, and it's the male guy that's on during the days. Now, the last time I spoke with him, he was almost humoring me with this. Yes, ma'am. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, he was spoken to, so he's trying to be. It's almost like he's humoring us. I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
This is what you're supposed to do and what we can do as well. Again, I will also ask the chief to have somebody swing by between 6:30 and 7 o'clock and make sure that your driveway isn't blocked.
Okay. All right. And the next project that goes on, are we going to have to go through this again, or is somebody going to? Is this going to be?
Well,
About before. That's why we're trying to talk to you right now, because there'll be other projects. I mean, you guys want this to happen, and our village is growing. I mean, the next project is near us too.
The next project is potentially the Hinsdale building, which is the white building next door. So, but I don't.
You know where it is. Yeah.
I know you
started.
know. I know you
Yeah,
know, but this is television, so. And I don't know where their construction crews are going to stage. That's up to the community development director.
Well, we just
And I
wanna
will
go through-
apologize. I will mention one other thing. I will apologize for them opening up the street. I believe that was Green Mountain Power. I believe that was a last minute project. I don't know that we even got much information on it. But I will also talk with Robin Pierce about how that happened and to keep that from happening again without notice to the neighbors.
Well, we just hope that the next project that happens, we won't be going through this again and having to bug you and having to call the police every other day. And I mean, this is ridiculous. We shouldn't have to live like this. It's not fair.
Thank you, Frank and Judy.
Can I jump in here for a second?
Yeah.
Go right ahead, Robin.
Obviously, I don't have the authority that a police officer does, Judy, but if it's 8 to 4:30 or if I've got a late meeting and somebody's blocking your driveway because they're parked there, give me a call. You got my number. I'll just come over and have a little word with them, and chances are they're
Not usually there that early, Robin.
That late.
Oh, you're 4:30 at night you're talking about? I'm talking about the mornings. So
Yeah. Well, morning.
The morning first.
But give me a call. You got my cell phone number. Give me a call, and I'll come over and have a word with them.
I don't know that I have your cell. Could you send it to me, please? You have my email.
I'll happily
Okay.
email it to you, Judy.
Thank you very much. I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Robin.
Okay.
So with that, we are still within public to be heard. Is there anybody else from the public who wishes to address the board about something that is not on the agenda tonight? Is that Annie Cooper?
Yeah.
Annie Cooper, yes, I see your hand up.
My hand is up for for the Judy and her husband. Judy, this is Annie Cooper. I'm just a citizen also in Essex Junction. In the town.
Hi, Annie.
Hi. I remember when you guys were chatting last time when we were talking about, I forget what the topic was, but we were discussing your experience on that road. And I'm feeling really frustrated on your behalf, just as another person hearing this. And my first thought is, and I don't mean to ask anyone to say this out loud now, but my first thoughts are, who owns that business? Who owns that company that's working? Because it is not common for anybody in construction work to send somebody backing up into traffic and not stand out there and help you. So somebody should have blocked traffic for you. Somebody should have, like, it's not normal. And so I'm curious to find out more about who owns those businesses that are hiring the construction and all that. So I'm slightly invested now, and I know that Evan and them are all doing what they're doing, but I'm just wanting to give you emotional support that I'm hearing you and frustrated for you also. So I hope that does get straightened out, and thank you for bringing it to the conversation again for the second time.
Thanks, Annie.
And thanks to all. I'm sorry, I just got frustrated with her.
Well, I appreciate it.
Okay, is there anybody else from the public who wishes to address the board about something that is not on the agenda? Raj, your hand is up. Is that a holdover?
Yes, I apologize.
No worries. Nobody else has mentioned anything. I see no other hands up. Seems safe to now go ahead and move off from this agenda item. And now we will get into our first business item, which is an interview and possible appointment of Annie Cooper for the Bike Walk Advisory Committee.
Okay, we're done.
So Annie, it's nice to have you here with us. As we typically start off with these, we can do this in executive session. If there is anything in which you do not want or feel could have some undue harm to you or your employment, we can have this in executive session. Otherwise, we do this in open session. Do you have a preference?
I feel good in open session.
Great. So then with that, if you don't mind, other than the letter that you had submitted, if you don't mind telling us, why you're interested and also what you would hope to accomplish.
Great. I was not aware that there was, I knew that there was a bike walk advisory, but I was unaware that there was open seats on the committee. And back earlier in the pandemic, I started a Facebook page, as I wrote, about Essex being our home and about Essex in general, and hoping, what I originally hoped for was that people would, just start shouting out where they were. It didn't really pan out that way. And then I was on my bicycle a lot during the pandemic, and I was thoughtful about when my kids were younger, and I'm a single mom, as many know. And when they were younger, we were in some pretty tough situations. And for example, my son Kale, when he was in 8th grade, was taking photos for rec basketball, and he would somehow, while I was working downtown in Burlington at the Y, he would somehow make his way up to the town schools to take photos, and he did it on foot in the winter with his camera bag. I'm gonna cry, with his camera bag slung over his shoulder, and he just like trudged along at it because the buses weren't running at that time, like whatever. And my kids took the buses down to meet me in Burlington, and so they had a really they really know Essex, and they know how to get around in Essex. And while I was on my bike, I was thinking, oh, my kids probably know how to navigate. Like Bodie, my oldest son Bodie worked at Essex Cinemas when we lived just below 5 Corners, and he would ride his bike and then come home late at night. He'd have to walk his bike down the first part because going through the wooded section of the, anyway, long story, that's too long. So now I'm enthusiastic because the connectivity of how to bring Essex toward Essex, like we did in Out and About, like we did for Open and Outside, how to navigate Essex from inside itself. And I really got excited about this idea of riding my bike from the dam, like the one point of Essex, from one end of Essex to another. And I randomly invited Owiso and Darren and Diane Fuchs to come with me, and they did. And so we spent a day kind of stopping at some parks and stopping at some locations and navigating. And Darren, I don't know how to pronounce his last name and do it justice. Is it? Can someone help me with that part?
Shibler.
So Darren Shibler lives in the village and really knows very well how to navigate on a bicycle. He's always on his bike and walking. And so we had a really fun experience, and there are connecting points that people don't know about. And so my enthusiasm is very high about what it would be like to have a strong connectivity and a strong understanding. There's a map app I started to use about how to get from, let's say, your house in the village up to Essex Cinemas or up to Hoagie's to get a meal, and then also how to get from, if you live down Sand Hill Road or up further up in the town, how to get down towards Mediterraneo, Cafe Mediterraneo, or somewhere to eat and drink down there, and what it would be like to walk and bike. And I really believe that this interconnectivity of Essex, getting to Essex like that, can be really helpful in the larger conversation that I know the Bike Walk Advisory Committee is always engaged in, of getting to Burlington and working with local motion and all that stuff. And so I'm really excited about this concept of connectivity of people on foot and on bike, and maybe even a scooter in Essex. Sorry to talk so much.
No, thank you. And that sounds very much in line with what I know the Bike Walk Committee did a little bit a few years ago when they had some mileage markers to some points of interest. Like there was some at Five Corners and some other places. And continuing that type of thing would be great. And I think it's very similar to what you're discussing. Other trustees, other questions for Annie? Go ahead, George.
Yeah, Annie, I'm glad you're doing this, and thank you. And those are really good reasons. Just in terms of sort of immediate stuff, anything just around that you see going on around the village center that you think needs improvement. Just looking at things that we're doing right now instead of just long. I mean, I appreciate the long-term stuff, but just since you've been out and thinking about this, just what are your thoughts about anything that we might want to do right away?
Well, I don't know, George, if I hope this is an appropriate time for me to bring it up, but
Sure.
a group of us started a petition, not in argumentation, not in an argumentative way, but in a supportive way, to reach out and ask for a pedestrian light at the crosswalk over here when you come from Essex High School at the corner of Main Street and Pleasant.
Okay.
Because last year when I was on the select board, somebody contacted me and said they had such a scare because they had been driving and they had driven, down Main Street, coming from past the old police station, and someone had been making a left turn, and there was a child in the crosswalk that the driver could not see, and it became a difficult experience, and that person was concerned about themselves, that they had almost been in this scenario. And so that began the conversation for me. And then most recently, one of our neighbors' sons got into a dicey situation with the crossing guard there when somebody came through that crosswalk area. And so, sorry, the screen is frozen. I feel like I'm just talking to myself in a mirror here. You're all there, right, listening to me?
Yes, we are, and we're fascinated.
We're here, Annie.
Frozen and fascinated. So we immediately, it makes it so much more personal, right, when this is really happening. And there's a lot of conversations about a lot of crosswalks, but this one in particular is so tricky because people are coming down the hill on 15, and the speed limit slows you, but there's still a decline. And as you come, even though there are the posted signs that say there's a crosswalk, your eyes are not able to visibly see that crosswalk until you're almost at it, on the ground, I mean. And then for your brain to understand that, oh, there's a car in the left turn lane, now I have to stop at this crosswalk, plus you're slowing down. It's just a lot. I'm not suggesting that people shouldn't follow the law, but I just think that we need this extra bonus of the pedestrian flashing light, because that particular crosswalk is too hairy right now. And then I heard of another experience the other day where the crossing guard also had a smaller challenge, but still. And the young child, elementary school child, is still nervous to cross the street there, and we don't need that. I think we've got so much walkability going on, and we've got so much strength in our in the trust that we have with the way that our school kids go to school and travel together and stuff, that this pedestrian blinking light should really happen immediately, right now, like yesterday.
All right, now we have Amber, your hand was up, and then after Amber, Raj.
Hey, Annie, thanks for stepping up to do this. So my question is about the commitment, the time commitment and the term commitment. So this was actually a pretty long, looks like there was a lot of term left on it. So it goes until June of 2023. So I just wanted to check that that's something you're good with, the term, as well as the commitment of the time that it's going to take, monthly, quarterly, whatever it ends up being, for meetings for the committee itself. That works with your schedule and everything.
You know, I really appreciate the question, Amber, because we are, you and I have a good relationship and are friends. And I think it's a smart question to ask, considering my shortened time on the select board. I learned a lot about what I should not have done when I stepped down from the select board. And I feel that I put a lot of thought and care into my feelings about my current decisions to step up and join committees. And I feel very, very confident in my desire to get short-term and long-term work done. And I'm completely and thoroughly invested in for the long haul. And I value the question. I hope that you trust and believe me.
Thanks, Annie. And just so you know, I ask everybody that same question.
That's my own Catholic guilt in there. Then I'm like, oh man, because that's so
important.
Yes, it is important. To be honest with you, I asked myself that question, and then I had some low confidence. My confidence was a little low in asking to be interviewed for the two committees that I currently asked for, the EDC and this one. And I thought, oh my goodness, are they going to trust me? I'm going to cry. Are they going to believe me that I'm going to do this? You know? And so I had to do a lot of soul searching about that. And yes, I feel confident in the time commitment. I feel confident in the makeup of the current committee. Like Walk Committee, I went to the past 2 meetings, and I really feel confident and comfortable with everyone in there. And I feel very strongly that I can fit this into my schedule all the way through. Yes.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Raj.
Hey, Annie, it's Raj. I'm thrilled that you put your hat in the ring for this. I'm very excited too, because Bike Walk has always had a little bit of trouble attracting people with pedestrian focus. And even though it's in the name, it just seems to be made up often of cyclists, or that's kind of where the thought goes. So I know that you'll bring that other perspective. So I think that'll be very useful. I'm curious to see what the third committee you volunteer for is, because they come in threes, right? So no, but I please do help the committee focus on the they try. There's nothing wrong with what they're doing, but I think please do bring that pedestrian focus as well. And I'm excited about you and your energy being added to that effort. So thanks for stepping up.
Yeah, I honestly, if you don't mind, I'm going to launch off for half a second into the topic, even though you didn't ask me a question. You just said that I was there for that, and I am. When we used to live up on Sand Hill Road, and I first moved here, I used to put the kids in a double stroller and walk from 180 Sand Hill past Clara Lane down all the way to Hannaford's and back up again with great regularity, and then also the other way towards the schools and stuff. And sidewalks and walkability are of extreme importance to me year round. I grew up, as you know, in Brooklyn, and I used to walk. I was a lifeguard at Coney Island Beach, and I would ride my bike frequently, but then I started to walk it. So it was a 6 or 7 mile walk around one way. And I would walk there in the morning, and then after an 8 to 10 hour day, I'd walk back home. And walkability is so valuable because, as we saw last night when we had the, I don't know if anybody of you came out to the Pleasant Street Luminary Solstice event that we not randomly, but through last night. But so many people did it on foot. And walkability creates good community, and I'm here for that all day. So thank you for that, Raj.
And I think you brought up a very good point, that this doesn't stop at the village boundary. right? So, keeping that connectivity with all of our connected communities, the town and outside the village, Williston, Colchester, is very important. And, every anecdote you told includes that. You didn't just stop, in countryside. You went up, and so anyway, I think it's going to be great. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. I'm excited.
I don't see any other hands up from trustees. Annie, is there anything else you want to say?
I meant to take a quick glance at my own letter thing, but I couldn't get into Teams without closing out a lot of stuff. My computer's getting a little tired, and so I didn't reread it. And I did mean to make a point. I was a little bit less organized than I meant to be, but I think it's all right, because I don't know if you guys are going to deny me. I hope not, but I feel like you have a good sense of my thoughts. I think the Bike Walk Advisory Committee has got a really nice leadership and kind people. And oh, thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome.
I'm skimming so fast. Yeah. Oh, I guess I see in Botswana. In Kasane in Botswana, we used to walk to town and back all the time too. And that wasn't just because I was in the Peace Corps and didn't have a car or a bike. Yeah, I think I did cover everything. I feel good. Thank you for asking. Oh, look at you again. Keep going for a second. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that does help. Thank you. I have engaged, thank you very much. I engaged several members of, I talked to Ron Hunt, and then Ron Hunt, and this is back in, I don't even know if it was June, maybe whenever we took that bike ride. And I sat down and met with management up at the inn, with some management over at the Essex Experience. I've talked to some local businesses down here in the village. And I think that this idea of Essex being able to get to Essex is so important. And my friend and I frequently walk up at the Saxon Hill Trails, and there's just so much about us that we need to reflect upon about ourselves and how to get to ourselves and to our neighbors and to our parks and to one another, that I'm excited and enthusiastic to be part of it. Thank you for that, Tammy.
Thank you, Annie. So trustees, I don't know about you. I see this has been open since, when was it? February 27th. I'm ready to vote. The rest of you are? I'll take your silence as a yes. Or George, your hand is up. George, your hand is up. And you're muted if you're trying to talk.
I had my mute on. My dog was trying to talk to me at the same time. So I didn't want that I didn't want a two-way conversation going on. Sorry about that. So I will nominate Annie Cooper. I'd like to nominate Annie Cooper, that we appoint Annie to the Bike Walk Committee.
I'll second that. And George, would you mind a friendly amendment with a term ending of June 30, 2023?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so George, you've made the motion, and I've seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Passed unanimously. Andy can't say I'm surprised by that, and I hope that just goes to speak to how excited we are to have you board.
Thank you so much for this time and for your trust, and I really appreciate all that you all do. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and look forward to seeing what you're going to do.
Thank you.
See you, Annie.
Thanks.
All right, now we are on to our next agenda item, which is a presentation of Town Meeting TV and the annual update. And I believe we have Megan O'Rourke from Town Meeting TV here with us. Megan, are you with us?
I am with you. Can you hear me?
I can. It started off a little choppy. Go ahead and give it a shot again.
Okay, let me just double check that I'm connected to the right. Yeah, I am. So now, can you hear me?
I think so. Go ahead, and if we have troubles, let you know.
All right. I see Evan has the memo that I sent to you, although this does contain one of the typos. Thank you for having me. I'm here to make our annual request for funding, and I'll run us through the memo. as you know, Town Meeting Television. First of all, I want to highlight that we're now going by Town Meeting TV. In May, Comcast moved our channels after a lengthy litigation process with all of the access centers in the state of Vermont to a tier in what we're calling the PEG neighborhood, up in the thousands. So if you're on Comcast and you've wondered where did my favorite public educational and government access channels go, we are now on channel 1087. Hence, we are no longer calling ourselves channel 17, although many people know us that way, and we are still on channel 17 in Burlington Telecom, just to make things really crazy and confusing. We also, of course, have all of our content on our website, and we have our YouTube channel as well. So we have a variety of places where folks can find your meetings and all of the other meetings for the municipalities that we cover. So in March, just like all of you, we had to figure out how we were going to continue to serve the communities in this virtual world. And in some cases, I think your community was one of those that was able to pretty seamlessly move to a remote meeting platform. In some cases, we assisted other communities in that transition. And we have been logging onto your meetings. I think our camera operator tonight, and I'd say camera operator in quotes, is Jordan, and I think he's in the background recording tonight's meeting. When we figured out last night that the Microsoft Teams is actually a little more complicated to extract video from, we were anyway. I'm getting myself I'm headed down a cul-de-sac, and I don't need to be there. We recognize that for many communities, this is going to be a complicated year to figure out revenue, maybe not right away, maybe over the long term. So we're coming to you for level funding. You'll see there that Essex in FY20, and this is our fiscal year, not your fiscal year, FY20 contributed 12,000. We're asking for an increase, not an increase, for level funding of 12,000 again. That 12,000 goes towards covering 36 meetings a year, which we estimate to be about $25,000. We generally consider each meeting to take about 7+ hours of production time at $93 an hour. So that's where that number is coming from. Of course, Town Meeting Television does a variety of other things, election coverage. Besides airing, sharing, archiving, titling, adding agenda items to your meetings and making them accessible to the public. And now also, I think I also said the live streaming. We also have internships, we do election programming, we do community programming. We have an element where we're doing advocacy and outreach with the other VAN communities. And you'll see here that we recognize the need to increase our revenue from a variety of sources as cable revenues are declining. PEG access, for those of you who are not familiar, has been paid for the last 25 to 30 years by a franchise fee levied on the cable companies in exchange for the use of the rights of way, and communities choose to use that, in this case, the trustees, not to confuse the Essex Junction trustees, the Channel 17 trustees, the Town Meeting TV trustees, choose to use that money to, in large part, cover municipal meetings. Cable revenues have been declining. I think Comcast, just our revenue from Comcast has gone down 7% in the last 5 years, and we expect to see that continue. So I'll pause there. I'm not sure, Evan, if you want to scroll down the memo. So this outlines, I will also hop over here to my memo, make sure I cover everything. You'll see our general budget summary there. And then at the very end of this meeting, at the very end of the memo is a discussion of hybrid meetings. And we've had a conversation. I guess it's not Evan who's, is that?
You probably met with Rob Paluba, the IT director.
We're going to meet with Rob in January. Yeah, so we're going to meet with Rob in January. And the hybrid meeting sketch that you see at the bottom of the page there is like a generic outline of it's kind of like a robust teleconferencing system, or so you could have some folks sitting in your meeting room. You could have some folks continuing to participate, and you're going to have an increased audio and video quality. We're hoping to install PTZ cameras, which is short for pan, tilt, and zoom, that can be controlled through the internet. So our field operators can continue to work remotely. You'll have the audio mixer will also be able to be controlled remotely, and the folks who are in the room will be recorded by those audio inputs and those video cameras, and you'll have a television that can see folks that are participating from outside the meeting room. So this is something we're going to have to work with different communities on. We're not including this in our budget request per se, because it's really looking at capital improvements, and different communities have really different setups and different needs. So we don't have a one size fits all. So as Evan said, we're going to meet with Rob in January to discuss that and figure out what you already have that we could work with, and see if we can get this in place soon. From a
staff standpoint, we're pretty excited about that. We have seen our audience participation go up actually when we went on remote.
Yeah. And I must say that partly our staff is on vacation this week, and we were not recording last night's meeting, and I got a number of calls and emails. Where are you? Where are you? Why weren't you there? And so actually, Jordan volunteered to step up, and he's here, stepped up to record and stream tonight's meetings, because we recognized that it was a little more tricky to get the recording out of Microsoft Teams than expected. So I'll pause there and see if there are any questions.
I do see that Trustee Amber Tebow has her hand up. Amber, go ahead.
I actually have a question more for, I think, the board and staff than I do for Megan, but it might impact Megan. So my question is more of a process, because we just had a budget day, and I'm fairly new to the board here, only being on for about a year or so. And so we had a budget day, and I think in the budget day, we did keep the line item at 12.6. So I'm just curious as to whether there's communication, because it looks like the staff already knew that that's what the request was going to be from Town Meeting TV. The communication goes to the staff prior to our budget meetings each year, and then we just hear about it after the fact, or how does that work, Megan? Do you know, or are they just psychic?
No, not psychic.
They're psychic. Well, they're on top of it. They reached out to us to make sure that we had this memo to you. And I'm not sure. I don't, in terms of the timing of it, I'm not entirely sure. But to be clear, I just want to make sure that I'm clear. I think we are only asking for the 1,200 this year. It's a little confusing because our FY, what we're asking for is the FY 21, not your FY 22. So it's a little.
They're asking for level funding from last fiscal year.
Yeah.
How this happens is we get communication from TV, and it used to be Channel 17, now it's their new name, and they send us a letter, and that's what we put in the budget. her presentation didn't get scheduled till tonight.
Mhm.
So there are times when sometimes their presentation is first and et cetera, but we had advance warning based upon this letter. And also we have representation on the board who also let us know what was coming or was likely to come. So we're not clairvoyant.
Okay.
But
So-
we do.
No, go ahead, Evan, sorry.
You know, we have been a supporter of this channel. I think that our citizens, as you all well know, our viewership is quite high. So I'm told, and as evidenced by last night, it was not being broadcast, and we had to scramble. People were phoning in, and they wanted to see the recording as soon as it was available from teams. So there's that, and then one quick thing. It was really interesting because Town TV and our staff were thinking along the same lines about hybrid meetings and how our rooms are either kind of set up but not completely set up to have a hybrid audience / people at home. And they unbeknownst to us, they were working on that. And so we have some monies budgeted in the town budget to be able to do some of these upgrades. So we'll be able to do both the Village Room and 81 Main's room, probably with mostly some of the equipment we already have, and then working with them on some of their other specifications when hybrid opens up. Because right now, both of our buildings are closed to the public, and so we're not actually having audience members in the audience. So that's the update.
Thanks, guys. I think part of my confusion is, Megan, I obviously have a little bit more background on town meeting TV than some of the folks here, but and I'm aware of the difference in the fiscal year and stuff, but our budget, when we went through our budget, and I just pulled it back up, unless I'm misreading it, we did level funding at 12.6.
Okay, so that might that may be based on the confusion of the different fiscal years. So I don't know how you guys are going to work that out on your side. But we can move up, we can move you up to 12.6 and adjust our schedule.
I think we can figure that portion out at another time.
Yep.
And
Amber, was that it?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. George, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, hi, Megan. I'm glad you're doing the hybrid. You're thinking about that. I think it's a good idea. I had one other question. Did having Comcast change your designation and move you way up into the thousands, did that have an impact, and what was the impact?
It's a huge impact. We're still hearing from folks that they have no idea where we are, or that we just went off the air, and competing. Of course, this is not appointment television or must-watch TV. We've long relied on drive-by viewers to find us, but also, there are folks that do tune in because they know that, Wednesday night is Burlington's meeting night, and you're going to be able to see all of the Burlington meetings on Wednesday night. So part of the settlement gave us a $3,000 budget to work on marketing and rebranding, and we are going to continue to do that. So we're just working in, as much as we can, continuing to get out the word that we've moved to this new neighborhood. I will say that also in this new neighborhood, Van has part of that settlement was also a statewide channel. And that's kind of exciting. So all of the access centers in the state of Vermont are working together to program and share content on a new statewide channel that's available to all Comcast viewers. And if I have it right in the top of my head, it's 1072. So if you have Comcast, you can check that out and see content from all around the state. And I think, you know, what you're going to find is when we say you get to see your neighbors on TV, anybody who spent any time traveling around Vermont knows how unique different corners of Vermont are. And I think we'll see that reflected in this statewide channel in a way like that you'll never see on television anywhere. So it's kind of cool.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, and certainly that the hybrid, that portion that you mentioned did strike my interest when I read that. It's an exciting thing, and as I've spoken with Evan about in our individual meetings, personally, I have no desire to end these virtual meetings anytime soon. Not only just due to the pandemic, but also it has increased the number of people who are participating in our meetings. So certainly appreciate that, and I'm interested to see how we might be able to help cement this practice moving forward once the pandemic, whenever the pandemic just is over with, and we can go on to some level of normalcy. Really appreciate that. Trustees, do you have any other questions for Megan?
Well, we really appreciate it. We're really excited. Ramona Shepherd, of course, is your new representative from the trustees. She brings fantastic media experience and has been a great asset to the board. So we appreciate working with your community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan, and also thanks to Jordan for being here tonight to make sure that this is live streamed. I was just taking a quick look on YouTube, and I think I saw 5 or 6 people. So certainly, it's the access to the community.
Yep, we had 48 viewers on the last meeting from a week ago. No, 163 views. I'm sorry, we had 163 views.
Nice.
So yeah.
Thank you. And Amber, I see your hand is up. Is that a holdover?
Hold over. Someday I'll learn.
Just want to make sure I'm not excluding anybody. All right. Well, Megan, appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Well, before you head out, public comments. Annie Cooper, I see your hand is up.
Lorraine.
Sorry.
Lorraine Zaloom thought to thank Megan. Oh, sorry. Did you recognize me yet?
Nope. Annie, go ahead.
Last night, Lorraine thought to recognize Megan, and I know I said it last night, but Megan, we are so lucky to have you. We're so fortunate that you are the leadership of this and for all of those that work there. And I can't believe that, I don't know, I forget the gentleman's name that you said. What's that?
One more time.
Jordan.
Well, that's who did it tonight. So please extend our thanks. That's a great experience. That's great customer service. And thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Annie.
George, I see your hand is up.
Andrew, I can't see my screen and my agenda at the same time. Sorry, I've got a bunch of things going on here. Were we supposed to vote on the budget tonight, or is that for another night?
I believe that's for another night. This was just the presentation and the annual update.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Megan.
Thanks. Take care.
Have a good night, Megan. Thank you.
And our next agenda item is to consider an approval to accept a grant award for stormwater outfall stabilization project on Rosewood Lane. Chelsea, nice to have you with us.
Hello, thank you. Nice to see everyone. Oh, that just triggered my dog, sorry. So thank you, everyone. Tonight I wanted to talk to you all about outfall stabilization project behind 3 Rosewood Lane. And I am going to probably interchange using outfall and outlet while I talk about this. The state recently changed the definition, and so now they're supposed to be called outlets, but they're one and the same. So I don't want to create confusion. But the state VTrans has something called the Better Roads Grant. We've applied to several of these grant applications. And so this time I was looking to conduct an outfall stabilization project on Rosewood Lane. This outfall has been on my radar for some time, probably 5 or 6 years, but it wasn't a priority in comparison to the other stormwater projects we had going on in the village. However, the state recently in 2019 issued the municipal roads general permit, which really charges municipalities to reduce the amount of stormwater runoff or erosion related to stormwater from paved and unpaved roads. And because we don't have any dirt roads in the village, we're focused on the requirements for paved roads with catch basins, curbed and non-curbed. And so the start of that process was to conduct a road erosion inventory, which occurred in over a couple of years. I think it started initially in 2017 and it had to be done by 2019. We were fortunate, all of the municipalities in Chittenden County received support from Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission to conduct that inventory. They largely conducted the inventory with the related staff of the municipalities field verifying what they found. And so part of that road erosion inventory was assessing if a hydrologically connected road segment, which is 300 feet of a road that has a catch basin with its outfall pipe within 500 feet of the waters of the state or a wetland. That's considered hydrologically connected, and the regional planning assessed the amount of erosion that was at that outlet. In the village, we had 386 hydrologically connected road segments, in which 77 outlets were tied to that. And of those 386, 277 were found to fully meet the standards, which means there's no erosion present. And then partially meets, we had 0 road segments or outlets. And partially meets means that there's real erosion present, and that's when the outfall channel has less than a foot of erosion in depth. And then we had 109 segments that do not meet, which is just the road segments. So, and that means that there's gully erosion present, which is greater than a foot of erosion channel. And in total, that's only 7 outfall outlets that need to be repaired in the village that fall in the partially meets or does not meet category. So that's fantastic. And this one on Rosewood Lane is more severe, and I knew that it was something that needed to be engineered versus something that I could work out with Public Works to stabilize. So we also received funding from, or support, I should say, from regional planning to hire local consulting or watershed consulting associates, and they designed a 30% design for this outfall stabilization, which involves creating a head wall because it's right against the 3 Rosewoods property, and it just the way that development goes, there's a natural bank, so it's stabilizing that bank, and then there's going to need to be fill brought in as well as stone, because the channel, the erosion there is actually measured to almost 8 feet. It's well over my head. I can stand in the channel. It's pretty severe. And then the pipe, which is currently 8 inches, is going to be upgraded to 12 inches, which should also help slow the velocity of the stormwater. And this project is estimated to cost around $23,671, and that is what I put in for the grant application. But there is a 20% match requirement, so we would have to match almost 4,000. Oh, I said that wrong. So that's the total project cost. The grant request was $19,725 with just about under a $4,000 match. And that funding source would be from the Village Public Works Stormwater Maintenance Fund. And another wonky thing is this grant application was actually due this past Friday, in which I did submit the application. However, knowing that we could always deny the application or the grant if we receive such an award, But we're not actually going to find out if we receive any funding till July 2021 because this grant program is directly tied to legislative approval of the VTrans transportation budget, which has not happened yet with the legislator. So with that, it is recommended that the trustees grant permission to accept a grant award if we are to receive one, and allow the Unified Municipal Manager to sign such an agreement so that we can get this outfall stabilized this coming construction season is the hope.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Yep.
What are some of the ramifications should we say not to get the grant funding for it, and we don't do the work this year?
It will be put on the list for future grant applications, and then we will just use that match money or that potential match money to stabilize an outlet that is on one of those 7 that I know that I can work with Public Works and just do some calculations to know how much stone needs to be purchased to stabilize the channels that are less severe. So no direct ramifications.
Okay, so no no houses are going to fall into the outfall, outlet, whatever it is?
No, not at this point in time. It is
Great.
close to their shed, but it hasn't gotten worse in the 5 or 6 years it's been on my radar, but it is on the top of the list. We do have a permit requirement that we have to stabilize 15% of the most severe outfalls by 2023. So I'm trying to keep to that goal. We already have stabilized some that were on the list through the damage that was created by the FEMA storm. Some of those actually were hydrologically connected. So we do have some of those checked off the list.
So that's a great point. So if we have to have 15% of the projects taken care of, I think that's what you were saying is 15% of the projects. How close are we?
Of the priority projects, we have, I think, I have 2 that are stabilized out of, I think, 5 that I put on the list. And like I said, we only have 7 that we need to meet. But that's over the entire permit term. So as long as we get 1 or 2 done before 2023, we should be good.
I gotcha. All right, so then let's see. George, Dan hasn't spoken yet. Do you mind if we have Dan go first?
Dan, go ahead.
Just a question for you, Chelsea, about the, water, with the channels and streams and such going through the village. And how much of a role can private landowners have on the impact? What I'm thinking of is, like in my backyard, I cut a bunch of trees down this year in my backyard. Obviously, trees and other, vegetation helps to mitigate the flow of water through certain areas to reinforce embankments. I know they plant trees and such. Does the, I don't know if I'm a representative on the Regional Planning Commission, but do you or the Regional Planning Commission look into that and see what people are doing? Obviously, is a question of how much control you can have over a private landowner doing something that could potentially, what I'm saying is somebody could really have an adverse impact on the community by doing something simple as changing the layout or the landscape in their yard.
We don't necessarily have a direct say on their landscape. I mean, we do have our regional education program for stormwater. That's Rethink Runoff and the Stream Team, and that really, and that there's the 9 municipalities that have this stormwater requirement. We all participate. They're all in Chittenden County, and we combine our funding to educate residents on things they can do to reduce their stormwater. But another thing is we inspect all the outfalls or outlets in the village every year, whether it's me or our summer interns, if we have summer interns, which we have the past several years. And so we're really the eyes on the ground and we can't stop something after the fact, but a lot of the times people will come out and talk to us, and which is, have eyes on all of our outfalls. And if there's a situation, then we can hopefully, educate the homeowner for future reference. We do have a large issue of people dumping yard waste on top of these outfalls, which then creates problems. A lot of these erosion problems, actually, because the water can't flow properly. So there's a lot of that. And in this particular outfall did have that issue. It was severe. It was pretty buried by yard debris.
Great. Go ahead, George.
Well, Chelsea, you partially answered one of my questions, because I know where this property is. I was searching your information, trying to find the answer, so you wouldn't have to answer it, but I can't find it, so I'm going to make you answer it.
Okay.
Is this the village's property?
No, this is, well, yes and no. This is an issue in majority of the stormwater outfalls that we have, is the lack of easements that the developers ever filed into the land records to allow us to maintain these stormwater outfalls that we technically own. So
Right.
like we technically own that pipe, but there is no recorded easement in the land records. So I've already been in contact with the homeowner
Okay.
about an easement. They haven't signed anything yet. But we also have connections with 5 Rosewood, so I am confident that we could gain access. But it is I spend a lot of my time getting easement from homeowners as well. So does Jim.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
One of the other, so this is just nothing pertinent to this, but I wasn't surprised to hear that yard waste, because I know that whole area, we all, if we've got a patch of woods back behind it that we own or is convenient, we take our yard waste there instead of bringing it to the landfill.
Yeah.
And I know that in the past that has caused and is going to continue to cause. So I just am only mentioning it because that's something that we probably have to increase our efforts to remind people that anything you're dumping in the woods is not good. It's not okay. It's biodegradable, but sooner or later, keep dumping it's going to cause a lot of problems. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. It is an issue in this neighborhood, and actually the other outfall outlet that you see on this map is also flagged on this road erosion inventory does not meet the standards. So I think also the stormwater pipes are undersized in this neighborhood, given the development that occurred after, seeing that both of those do need repair.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Trustees, any other questions? All right, doesn't seem like there are. Would someone like to go ahead and make a motion?
I will make a motion that the trustees grant permission to accept this grant and to authorize the Unified Manager to sign a Better Roads grant agreement for this outfall stabilization project.
I'll second that, but also Andy Cooper's hand is up. I don't know if that's related to this, but
Thank you, Dan. So George, you have the motion. Dan, you have the second. Annie, if that hand is up intentionally, can you type something in the chat to let us know? Annie, are you still with us? All right, well, let's go ahead and we have the motion on the table. We have it seconded. Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, so that passed unanimously. Chelsea, thank you.
Right. Thank you.
And we'll try that again. Oh, now I see the hand went down. Annie, hope that wasn't intentional for a question for us.
No, I'm so sorry. I was feeding my dogs and I couldn't get back to the computer fast enough to tell you that was from before. So sorry. I'm so sorry.
No worries. All right, so that will bring us to whatever is next on our agenda. The discussion and potential action on increasing stipend for trustees and other appointed board members. You want to take this? Did you want me to take this?
Well, this was a discussion. I'll start.
Go ahead.
This was part of the discussion on the village's budget day of whether the village board wanted to look at the stipends for appointed board members, trustees and other appointed board members. I think there was a question of whether it could be done in the budget or whether it had to be done on the ballot. And I believe we have that answer.
What?
So essentially the opinion from Claudine is that this is something that has to be voted on separately as its own individual article on the ballot. So my question to that is, if we plan to do that and we put it in the budget as so, and that gets voted down, is that just then excess money in the budget?
Yes. Then if they don't, so if I understand your question, if the money is placed in the budget, but the trying to think of the word, if the article is not passed, but the budget does pass, then yes, you'll have excess money in the budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
Theoretically, practically.
So trustees, any questions on this?
I don't have any.
Okay.
None for me. This clarifies the question we had from budget day for me.
All right.
And this also includes, again, we also talked about, as a way to try to entice more people to reach out and join a committee or a commission. We have done an idea of stipends for those who need it. It's not, we hope that if you don't need a stipend, you don't take the stipend. But if you do, it would be available again, for racial equity, social equity, status, economic status. There are people that would like to serve, but it is very difficult for them to give a couple hours a week. These stipends would be whatever they need to use them for, babysitter, food, whatnot. This is just an initiative we are looking to start and see how it goes.
Well, we started off where there weren't any questions, and now I see the hands up. So it looked like Amber, then Raj, then Dan, and George, I think yours is a holdover.
No, mine's a holdover.
All right, so Amber, Raj, Dan.
Okay, so Evan just mentioned the stipend, so I just want to be clear. The vote is specifically for our salary. It is not
Correct.
for the stipends. Okay.
Correct.
Just making that clear.
Yes, the only thing in the charter is about trustees' stipends. Everything else is at your discretion.
Go ahead, Raj.
That was my question, but I thought of another, so since I'm here. So, you know what? I'm going to skip that. Forget it. Thank you.
All right, Dan.
No, I was just going to say that the idea that if you don't need the stipend, you don't take the stipend, and the people that need the stipend should take the stipend. I think that can be difficult, and it almost comes across with a stigma that, oh, you need this stipend, oh, you don't. Where do you draw the line there? It's up to interpretation. people in our constituents could look at it and say, oh, well, she's taking the stipend, but he's not taking the stipend. Why is making judgments? Rather than open that up so that people can start being judgmental about it, my proposal would be just give it out to everyone and, not to make a big issue about it.
If I could, we're not publicizing who is getting a stipend. They just apply to the manager, not through their committee. We're not gonna, hopefully we are not going to publicize who, this, because that's a stigma. We would rather they just fill out the form and they get it. We're not gonna, again, single anybody out. And just maybe we did this just recently in our racial justice listening sessions, and nobody within the session knew who was or wasn't getting a stipend. And nobody asked. So if that helps, if it becomes a problem or an issue, we will come back to the boards, because really, I think we're not fully funding every committee and commission to go to 100% stipend, because we don't know yet what the absorption rate would be.
Can I ask a question related to that real quick?
Jump right ahead.
So just looking forward a year from now, let's say this plan is implemented. There are some folks that take advantage of that. We have some moderate success in perhaps attracting some folks who may not have otherwise been able to do it. That's the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a public records request that could identify those people? Look, I'm not going to project and say anybody that's asking for one of these should be embarrassed that they took one. I don't personally think they should. If we get someone that normally would not be able to do this, but through the benefit of having a babysitter can give back to the community, I think that's something that should be lauded. But nonetheless, I mean, do we know what the protection is there for privacy, if at all? And I would question whether there would be, but just because I don't want to give people the impression that it's a process that we're not advertising, but that it's more, I'm just curious how that would play out. You get what I'm saying?
I think I do. I cannot say definitively. I'm not a open records
Sure.
master, but I would venture to say off the top of my head, it is a possibility that would be a record. They would get a name. They wouldn't get any other information because it is public funds.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought.
But I would run that through Claudine to make sure. I would tell you that is not something without checking with our legal counsel. We would try to keep some of that. I mean, again, for stigma and other things, what the purpose is, but it's an open record of what you guys get for a stipend.
Sure.
Again, we're trying to balance all these different wants and needs. We, in working with several of the people that have been on my ad hoc committee, it represents, a diversity of representation is very high up on the priority list of all the group discussions, and so to do that, you have to try new things, or be willing to try new things. The downside is some of our other laws may open people up to scrutiny that they took a stipend. You have to weigh that.
I just fear it being used against someone in a negative way.
Yeah.
And when really what we're trying to do is do what the community wants us to do.
Right.
And get more people at the table, more people in the room. And
and
so
and I'm sorry, and one would hope that if you really don't need the stipend, leave it for others that do.
Yep.
Amber, I
Thanks.
see your hands up.
Sorry, I was just going to weigh in. I was looking at the public records rule, but I think, I think we should ask Claudine, but there is an exemption for lists that are created, which disclosure would violate a person's privacy. The question is, these are tricky avenues, and is there any case law that supports what we're trying to do? As you said, I mean, I think the reality is checks that are cut are public. They're in our warrants. Our salaries are public. So I think we might have to use kind of that exemption to see if we can try to snake it under that to try to protect people's privacy in that regards. But I agree that we should ask Claudine.
Yep.
I'd like to make it really clear that I don't think I'm not arguing to keep public expenditures of public money private. I am just trying to discuss a way that we can meet the goal without causing anyone any embarrassment through no fault of their own. So that's my goal. I'm not trying to keep anything secret that should be public. I just want to put that out there because it's important to say.
It is. It's important to make sure our intentions are clear. And it sounds like there are two kind of conversations on this. One is that policy level, another is a financial level of what would it take if we just offered all of our committee members, not offered, just provided the $50 stipend, regardless of whether you wanted it or not, instead of as a, if you need it, take it, it's a thank you, here, type of an opportunity instead. Evan, would it be possible for the next time, for our first public hearing on the budget, to have that discussion at that point, so we could also look at financially what that may mean, instead of I think it was a 60% acceptance rate, doing a 100% acceptance, and just instead of having it be an opt-in, it's just an offered opportunity.
Okay, shall do.
Thank you. I know for myself, it's a piece of information I'd want before I'd make that kind of a decision.
Okay. And okay.
Trustees, anything else on this before we move on?
Have you come to a decision on what you want to do about trustee stipends?
This was listed as just a discussion. I haven't heard anything that's that seemed to sway anybody away from increasing our stipends. I know for me personally, it didn't sway me. If anybody else feels differently or wants to address something, feel free. Dan, your hand is up.
Yep. Just, my opinion on this is we've been at $500 since I've been on the board, and I think it's almost 11 years or so, 9 years, 10 years, whatever it's been. Anyways, I think that if we're going to do anything, I'd just make it comparable or equal to what the select board gets, and just leave it at that.
Okay, Dan. Amber, your hand is up. Is that a holdover? Or is that a new one?
Cannot teach me anything, I promise. Sorry.
Nope. No worries whatsoever. So board members, anything else on that one? All right. I see we have at least one member of the public who wished to speak to this item. Irene, I see your hand is up. Why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Andrew. For the benefit of people in the audience who may not have attended the budget workshop as I did, would you mind going over the current stipend for the trustees as well as the increase that you're planning on? Thanks.
Current stipend is $500 a year. The proposal was $4,000 a year. Annie Cooper?
I think it just as I know that I don't want to weigh into your actual voting, but just two things that occurred to me that could help you in your thought process. One is that somebody was asking me last night, hey, when you're on committees, is there pay? And I said, no, not for the ones that I was doing. And she was asking me about two different committees, and I explained how it works. And then I came home thoughtful about my experience on the select board. It was hard for me to accept the money. I kept thinking I should probably put it. I was like, do I donate it? What do I, I didn't know what to do about it. It was a hard thing. And so while it was hard, and I would have preferred to have been able to opt in or not, at the end of the day, it was helpful, absolutely. And I agree a little bit with Dan that, and what you're saying, Andrew, that there's a level playing field. And I know that, of course, it makes it more money and harder to budget and everything, but it just makes it clean. It's just this is it. This is what we're doing. And if you have a robust economy and you have a strong base of people, that could grow nicely as you maybe create a tier of which boards you feel how, I don't know. Anyway, I'm talking too much, but thanks for letting me talk. I've just been thinking about this myself, and I just wanted to be part of the conversation. Bye.
Thank you, Annie. And just so you know, the whole intention of public comment is for the public to weigh in on these types of items. So I think you said something to the effect of not wanting to sway our decision making. That's what we look for the public to do. You help to inform us.
Yeah, I appreciate that. This particular piece, I feel, is delicate. I feel like I want to leave that part with you. I'm so on the fence myself that I wouldn't want to sway anybody in any direction. I want to let you do your own organic thinking, but I appreciate that, Andrew. Thanks for the confidence.
Thank you, Annie. Let's see. Irene, is your hand still up, or is that a new one?
It's new.
Okay.
Just, to speak broadly, since I'm not a village resident per se, in the past, the select board members were always awarded a stipend, but people did refuse to take the stipend. So there's always that option of people just asking the town manager quietly not to take it. And that way, once again, it's sort of not public knowledge, but no one has to take money from the town if they don't want it. Thanks.
All right. And so I believe that will bring us to the end of our business items. Move us into, where are we on the agenda here? Sorry, we are in the consent agenda. If someone wanted to make a motion to approve the consent agenda or amend it.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Rosh, for the second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, so that passed unanimously, which brings us to the reading file and board member comments. There were a couple of things I wanted to mention. One, within the reading file itself, I wanted to bring note to the letter to Susan McNamara Hill from Governor Scott. It is, to sum up, an appreciation letter to Susan McNamara Hill with the efforts related to voting during the pandemic, the mail-in voting, and that effort. It truly is a heroic effort, frankly, in the middle of a pandemic to do all of the work that Susan McNamara Hill and her team had done, as well as our Board of Civil Authority. And again, just true appreciation to them. One thing I want to ask for to our staff, to the village staff, is on our village website, someone had emailed asking for a clickable link to easily get to tonight's meeting. I know it took me a few minutes, and I'd like to think that I'm kind of computer savvy. If somebody could make it a little easier, right on our village website, I believe our link is the same link that we use for each meeting. If that's wrong, then feel free to tell me. But if there's some way to make it more easy on our website to say, here is a link to get into the Microsoft Teams meeting, and here is a phone number to call into, that would be helpful to make that easier. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up, trustees, I'm curious about your appetite, if you will. During this pandemic, I know personally, just in the neighborhood I live in, I have seen a significant uptick in people walking as a way for exercise, as many of us are working from home almost exclusively. The number of people walking around on the sidewalks has certainly grown. We have a policy where we will only plow one side of the sidewalk on all of our streets, with the exception of the, I believe it's the Class 2 highways within our community. I am curious what the trustees' appetite would be to hear a proposal from, or to ask staff to put together a proposal to plow both sides of the sidewalk during the pandemic for those roads, which may technically be a Class 3 road, but really act as a much higher, more traveled road than that, where there are sidewalks on both sides. And I say that, and if we're trying to encourage people to maintain 6 feet safe distance from each other, if only one side of the sidewalk is plowed, it's kind of hard to keep your 6 feet distance away from each other, or walking in the road. So I would just be curious if that's something that you would like to ask staff to come back to the presentation on.
I'd be in favor of it, Andrew, but with the obvious caveat that we need to make sure that, they've got the staffing and the scheduling and the money and everything to handle that, because I know it's a big task, as we all know. I mean, it's not a simple thing. So but I think you're exactly right. There seem to be, I don't know, there seem to be quite a few people out there walking around. So I think it'd be a good thing, but, I wouldn't want to overly burden them either in a time when they could be short-staffed or something like that this winter. So that's my feeling. I'd be generally supportive.
Okay.
Same here.
I agree, but I also realize that it could be a difficult thing for them. I mean, down in New Jersey, everybody in New Jersey does their sidewalk. You're responsible for the sidewalk in front of your house, your property, whatever. You're a property owner or homeowner responsible. I'm not saying that we do that here, but it's done elsewhere.
There might be some other, a lot of other communities around the country that are our size, bigger and smaller, are doing really creative things with changing two-way streets to one-way and doing some other things to make more room for pedestrian access, especially as winter's coming. It might be interesting to ask in conjunction with this, which I think is a really interesting conversation to have, what you propose, but ask Bike Walk to maybe kind of look out there quickly and see what other solutions other communities are using or might be recommended. But I like the idea. Be curious to see if they think it's possible.
Great, and I hear you, Raj, on the Bike Walk Advisory Committee being able to come up with something. If they can come up with something, realizing that it is December, I assume would take them a little bit to come up with some ideas and come back to us, and then implementing.
Yeah, you're right. It's very true.
But I think that is still a great idea. Raj, would you want to reach out to them?
Sure, I can reach out. I guess the other thing too is, how do you back off from that? When is the time we're doing both sides over? So that's, but yeah, I'd be very curious to see if it's possible.
And I just want to make sure I'm clear that when I say this, I was bringing it up as a matter of the pandemic response, and a matter with the governor's executive order, or aligning with the executive order for the pandemic, and that it is not trying to change the policy that we have on sidewalk plowing, like as a blanket statement.
Great.
So those were all that I had. George, I think, George, your hand is up. And then
right. Andrew, I wanted to bring up for one of our upcoming meetings, if you wouldn't mind, if we could put on the agenda, having a discussion about also adding to the ballot this year, asking voters permission to use the residual funds that are designated as land acquisition funds and the economic development fund to complete the park in front of the Firebird at the foot of Main Street and Maple Street. And the reason I'm asking is this: I know Robin is going to apply for grants, and I'm absolutely sure he will get a grant, but I'm not positive. He may not get a grant, or he may only get part of the money. And if we ask permission and don't use the money, that's fine. We've done that in the past. We ask permission, we don't use the money, that's fine. But if it turns out one thing after another, we just can't get that space funded, I'd like to keep in mind that despite the fact that we've got vaccines on the way, the best estimates are that things are not going to be back to normal earliest late summer, well into the fall. That's what's being projected right now nationally, and probably that's appropriate for the state. So I would like to say, I would personally like to see us get more usable, sittable, publicly usable space ready for the warm weather in the spring and through the summer. I think we would be, if we, I think we'd be very glad we did it. I think it would be money well spent. I also think not just in terms of the pandemic, but I think when we think of we've got another building coming online this spring with probably another 60 or 70 people moving into the village, and then right near that space there's going to be another building coming online probably within a year and a half, and we need to be. I know the rest of you are sick of me hearing me say this, but we need to be proactive about creating usable public space and usable parking in the village center. We have to keep up. So I would like to see us try to make a push to get that park done this year. And if we don't get a grant, then we have some kind of a backup plan. And I don't want to discuss it right now, but the reason I'm asking that we put it on the agenda is so that we can have the discussion about it and get our various thoughts. But anyway, that's my request.
Yeah, happy to put it on a future agenda. George, do you think yeah, we can do it in January. I think that would.
Yeah, that's fine.
That would work.
I don't think you could do it any sooner than that. I'm not sure.
Nope. Dan, go ahead. Your hand's up.
Yeah, I agree with George. That being said, regarding our discussion earlier about the sidewalks and plowing both sides of the streets, other than the class 2s, which are already plowed on each side. Two things. One, with the COVID pandemic, a lot of kids aren't walking to school, and we have busing for a lot. So there's, I think, less kids. But that being said, I know a lot of people are out walking their dogs, walking to get outside and do things. And as far as what Raj's comment about maybe changing the direction of travel on certain roads, making some roads maybe one way, a certain different direction, I think that would be very cumbersome and difficult and confusing. Not a bad idea maybe, but to try and do it all at one fell swoop for this period of time until things return to a new normal, whatever that is, I think is a little bit of a stretch. That's all.
Evan, go right ahead.
Thank you. In the reading file is a notice about Christmas tree pickup. And so I figured I would audibilize it. It starts January 4th and it ends January 8th. If you do put your tree out to the curb, please take off all the tinsel, take off all the ornaments, take your presents home with you, please. Sometimes they get left, but in general, please leave your tree at the curb, January 4th through the 8th, and enjoy the holidays.
Thank you, Evan. You mentioned the tree pickup, which raises a question. If I remember right, it was 2 years ago where there was not one, but I believe 2 ornaments which were left on people's trees. Do you know if those were ever picked up?
Oh, you're really supposed to... What? Tammy?
No, Evan, they're still in the drawer in the office.
They are. I thought that was the case. I thought that they were still in the drawer.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, we haven't thrown them out. They're still there. So if
Yeah.
anybody's listening,
If I remember, isn't it a baby's fingers?
yes.
And everybody at the office think it's my hands because I have some, but no, that somebody. So if anybody lost an ornament with some baby's fingers in a cast, we have them at the village hall. But no, and Andrew, you're supposed to ask me those tough questions in advance.
Whoops. Trying to keep you.
Thank goodness Tammy was here tonight. I had no idea.
Our last village meeting of the year, so trying to keep you on your toes. Would it be possible, I'm not trying to direct village staff, so I'm asking the question, would it be possible for someone to take a picture of those ornaments and to put it on the website? I know that people listening would also, could possibly see it again on Facebook as a reminder.
Tammy, if I take the picture, will you do it?
I'm not sure I know about the second ornament, but I do know about the child's ornament with the handprint, and the owner was found. She called in, and because that had made the news and everything. If you all remember, and they interviewed Trevor because he's the one that found it.
Yep.
And the owner was found, but she just never stopped by to pick it up.
I do recall that, and the reason why I say it is because at some point in time, we can't just keep storing things in perpetuity at the village office. While I know they're not large, at some point we just also got to let some things go.
Yeah. It's possible. This was back when Darby was here, so it's possible she may even have that name written down somewhere, or Terry might. But yeah, I would love to get it out of the drawer. That would be great.
Great.
It's cute.
All right, well, trustees, is there anything else tonight, or are we ready to end this thing?
I'm all set.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move we adjourn for 2020.
So Raj has a motion. Was someone to second that one?
Second.
I'll second.
Dan beat you, George. Nice try.
All right.
Any further discussion on adjourning?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning this last village meeting of the year, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? All right, so that passed unanimously. I will see you all at our next meeting. Happy holidays, everybody.
Same to you.
Take care, everybody.
Have a good night, everybody. Happy holidays.
Bye, everyone.
Kathy, bye, everybody.
Bye.
Please be safe.